Hello everyone. Welcome back to what fucking week are we on? Week 4 of the Rad Avenger League fantasy football season. Another preview here. A kind of a lackluster week last week. We did have a nice Monday night butthole squeezer with Andrew and Ashley coming down to the last minute. T. Higgins dropping a touchdown in the end zone. I guess he didn't drop it. It wasn't the most catchable ball, but either way, got a target in the red zone where he could have taken the lead late in that game and came up a little short. But other than that, I mean, most of the games were pretty out of hand by Sunday night. Trevor and I mean, technically there was a chance, but that was the only other one that came into question. Wade had an interesting start with the James Cook touchdown, but that petered out pretty quickly when Josh just went crazy in the first half. So like I said, Ashley and Andrew were really the only interesting game Monday night, and a lot of low scores around the league. We had John kind of pop off, put up 150, 149. Tim had a pretty good week at 127, and then Ashley and Andrew were both over 100. Everybody else was under 100, and 4 players were under 90. 3 I snuck over 90 with the Zach Moss touchdown, garbage time touchdown, but got me over that line anyway. But yeah, just a pretty low scoring week all around. Anyway, we're on to week 4, where hopefully everybody can put up so many points, except for Ashley. Standings are as such. We have Charlie moving up to first place. I mean, it is what it is. We know why. We know what's going on. Lowest points on the season, first place. Second lowest points, third lowest. Damn, that's crazy. Anyway, Charlie at first place. John moving way up into second place. Tim in third. Wade in fourth. Ashley in fifth. And Raleigh in sixth would be your playoff seeding if the season were to end today. And also the end of the 2-1 teams. Every single one of those teams is 2-1. Then you have Andrew at 1 and 2 in 7th place, myself at 1 and 2 in 8th, Cameron at 1 and 2 in 9th place, and bringing it up the rear, the lone team without a win, we have Trevor at 0 and 3. So no more undefeated teams. Every team now has at least one loss, and only one team without a win. Will we see that change this week? Find out first right here on the Rad Avenger League weekly preview. Going over to some waiver moves this week. We had I thought that page was going to be better, and it's not. It's really just dog shit, actually, the bottom feed on there. So obviously the big winner of last week, Jawan Jennings, Trevor went ahead and snagged him up. I added Cole Kmet for to try to find an answer at tight end. Raleigh is giving up on his boy and picked up Dak Prescott. Wade went ahead and snagged Geno Smith, added him to the lineup. We got a couple of defenses. Trevor coming back with Mike Gesicki, also trying to find an answer at tight end. Couple more defenses before Tim adds Roma Dunze. Raleigh adds Emmanuel Wilson. Raleigh also adds Jake Ferguson, also looking for an answer at tight end. Noticing a trend here, tight ends fucking suck right now. And apparently then Raleigh dropped Emmanuel Wilson, I guess for Jake Ferguson. Charlie picked him back up. Ashley went ahead and snagged up Sam Darnold, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I, about an hour ago, added Roschon Johnson off news that he may be better, and Jalen Warren is dead forever. Anyway, so that's kind of recapping the last week. So let's go ahead and get to everyone's favorite activity. And upon request, we have the return of the circus music. Highest scoring bench player. So highest scoring single bench player in the league this week. A lot of really negative ones, which I guess is lining up for a fun second half of the season, because we've got the only bad one left, largest margin of defeat, lowest scoring starter. Yeah, everything else is something you would go for naturally. Worst coach, I guess, is still up there. Yeah, a lot of positives to end the season with the wheel. And now we get to go to everybody's new favorite segment, the Andy Isabella Minute. So
Andy Isabella minute, Andy Isabella minute, Andy Isabella minute, Andy Isabella.
All right, so for this week's Andy Isabella minute, I went to scour his social media to see what kind of stuff Andy likes to get into. Not a lot, it turns out. His last post was on January 30th, 2021, where he tweeted, "You bet I'm tuning in to watch my QB at K1." That's Kyler Murray for anybody keeping track. "Take down the AFC in the hashtag Pro Bowl Madden NFL 21 edition. Catch the action by tapping the reminder button below hashtag EA Athlete." So apparently he had a sponsorship with EA, where he was partnered with them. But if you go all the way back to 2019, when Andy was getting ready for the Senior Bowl, there was a quote where he was actually training with Randy Moss, and Randy Moss said he was going to save his popcorn. He said he was going to have his popcorn ready, so I hope he did. Andy had 7 catches for 74 yards, and Randy Moss tweeted in response, "Andy, you know I did. Hashtag don't stop grinding." Big words from the GOAT there, and that's our Andy Isabella minute. All right, so as always, we are going to go just in order of the team standings. And I think we'd have to dig back into the archives for this one. This might be the first time that Charlie's leading us off. Because if you remember when we started these, that was in the middle of Raleigh's dominant run, and actually it was a running bit that we would always start with Raleigh, because he was always in first place. So I don't know that Charlie has ever let us off outside of playing the person who played first. But soak it in, Charlie, while you can. So getting into the quarterbacks, a very different storyline so far this season for each of them. Patrick Mahomes, one of the few 3-0 teams left, and has done it without really doing anything. He has broken 15 points one time by scoring 16 last week. Has yet to throw for anywhere near 300 yards. Has been under 250 in 2 of those games. Has had a pretty ugly interception in each of those games, and is really just not lighting up the touchdown boards like you maybe would assume he would. He's had 2 the last 2 games, 1 in week 1. But the Chiefs win. Like, the Chiefs are very good. It's just, I think, we keep waiting for this 2020, 2019, 2018 Patrick Mahomes to show up where he's throwing for 350 and 4 touchdowns. And I don't think that's just not what the Chiefs are anymore. I think Wade mentioned last week that he may be looking to go a different direction. I don't know if this is the week he does it. We talked in the transactions. He did pick up Geno Smith. Getting a start against Detroit this week, who normally, going back to last season, you would think is a matchup you would want to target. But we've kind of seen this year so far that they have been a much improved offense. Obviously, the line with Aiden Hutchinson kind of getting into groove there has been a lot better at getting after the passer, and they've made so many improvements in the secondary. Terrion Arnold's been great. Brian Branch is I think he's a 3rd-year player, maybe 2nd. One of the better safeties in football, but they shut the Cardinals down last week. It was a little bit of a weird game where scoring just kind of stopped, but they shut the Cardinals down pretty easily. Kind of took care of Marvin Harrison. The week before they lost to the Bucs, but Baker wasn't going ballistic like he did in week 1. And Matthew Stafford had one of the only 300-yard games in week 1, but that would be maybe the what you point to and say they haven't figured it all out. All that to say, Detroit's not necessarily a defense that you just auto target right now, like you would maybe think they were. Historically this season, I still think you maybe could talk yourself into pulling the trigger on Geno Smith, but like I said, it's not automatic like it has been. On the other side, we have Derek Carr, who started out hot. We thought maybe he was the best quarterback ever. We thought maybe Peyton Manning had reincarnated, and then a few injuries started to pile up, and I don't think the Eagles defense are world beaters by any means, but they're better than what he had played in the first 2 weeks. In the Panthers pre-Andy Dalton and the Cowboys, who now look like the defense you just want to hunt because they have just given up yards and yards. But last week looked very normal, looked like the Derek Carr on the Saints that we're used to seeing. Gets a very tough defensive matchup in Atlanta this week. I don't know if there's another option. Well, I guess Jordan Love is there and may come back So another interesting decision that he has to make. We'll see if the two quarterbacks that are starting right now, even ended up as the starters by kickoff on Sunday. And I think it's 50-50. I don't really know that there's an easy answer either way. Derrick Henry was awesome last week. Getting back to going up against that Cowboys defense that apparently you can just run all over. 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and some production in the passing game. It looked like a vintage Derrick Henry performance. Obviously we know the story now. I panic sold on him, and maybe it may end up being the wrong choice, but he looked good last week. He gets Buffalo this week. Obviously a much better defense, you would think on paper. That game's in Buffalo. So not to say that Derrick Henry is about to drop a dud, but obviously I don't think we're getting another 29-point performance. James Conner on the other side has a very, very favorable matchup in the Washington Commanders. That game is going to be awesome. The Cardinals and the Commanders, I think it's just going to be a points bonanza. I don't think either one of those defenses really built to stop anyone, and it's two pretty productive offenses. So plenty of scoring opportunities should be around for James Conner. Rachaad White for Charlie, maybe is the RB2 in Tampa Bay. So we'll see if he, maybe shift to Zamir White, who is also the RB2 in Oakland or in Las Vegas. DeAndre Swift, who is now I think maybe the RB2 in Chicago. Or Emmanuel Wilson, who is definitely the RB2 in Green Bay. So we'll see where he ends up going there. But right now we have Rachaad White against an Eagles defense that we've seen be gashed by, it was Bijan Robinson, but still he ran on him well. So, maybe we just take a shot there that the Eagles front is not what we want them to be, even though Jalen Carter is the fucking truth. And on the other side, Jordan Mason with against the Patriots, you would think a favorable matchup there. With Jordan Mason, it's all about volume. Had his worst week of the season last week with 77 yards and 11 receiving yards. Didn't find the end zone. I'm not panicking on that. I think he'll probably have his 15 to 16 points he normally gets. And now we get into the meat and potatoes of this, which is the wide receivers. Devontae Adams against Cleveland, very tough matchup there. Defense wise, but obviously Devontae Adams very good. Has been up and down this season. Lit up the Ravens for the 21.5 point performance. The other two have just been kind of poo poo. It maybe a shock last week playing the Panthers, but that's kind of a new team with Andy Dalton. And then DJ Moore. Obviously I'm a Caleb Williams stan, and I said this was the stretch where he would start to look like an NFL quarterback. He didn't look great, but he threw for 363 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously he didn't win the game. He had a really bad interception and then another tip ball that was in double coverage that probably could have been avoided, although not necessarily his fault. He did hit the receiver in the hands. But DJ Moore and Rome Odunze both had very, very productive days. 78 yards from DJ Moore, putting up 11.2 points. Has failed to find the end zone still. But I think a Rams defense that you can exploit through the air for sure. We've seen it pretty consistently. Jawan Jennings just had 160 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, and the week before that, Marvin Harrison went just ballistic at his coming out party. So, look for the Bears to, at least the passing game, to be great. I still think the run game is, with a bad O-line and an aging bad running back, that's just a bad mixture. On the other side, Chris Godwin against the Eagles. I talked about the Eagles defense kind of stepping up against the Saints this week. But their secondary is still young and questionable. So I like Chris Godwin, a veteran wide receiver with a veteran quarterback who can kind of exploit some of those weaker points in the back end. And then I just talked about the Cardinals, Marvin Harrison, that game, take the over, sit back, and just love it. I think it's just going to be a points fest. So love Marvin Harrison this week. Love any receiver, any player in that game specifically. Which means I'm just going to cream when we get to my team and I get to talk about Kyler Murray. And then, Rashid Shaheed letting out a dud. We'll see if he starts. Once again, I don't really know where you go from Charlie's bench to slot that in. Maybe you take a flyer on P. Ryan, or you get one of these, running back committees that's in here. Or you just leave him in and pray for the deep ball. That's kind of the game with Rashid Shaheed. James Cook is a monster. That's all I have to say about that. The Bills have kind of turned into a power run team. the Ravens have given up some yards in these first couple weeks. They've played good teams, but they've given up yards. Well, the Raiders weren't good, but the other two are pretty good, I guess. Well, maybe the Cowboys suck too. So they played the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean it's James Cook. He just gets volume, and at home it's awesome. Picking a winner here, yeah, I'm gonna go with Wade. Pretty quickly. Which means I'll probably get made fun of when Charlie wins, but it's Wade, and the website agrees. It's 106 to 88 is the projected score there. So going on to our next game, which is John against, who does John have this week? Oh, T Money Mayhem. Our two highest scores last week. Would be really interesting if they do it again. And oh, would you look at that? We get Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson Sunday Night Football. So I'm going to go ahead and declare this the game of the week. Pretty easily, actually. The rest of the games, I think it's the only games between teams with a winning record. If I am looking at this correct, it absolutely is. And like I said, our highest scores last week, and we get the quarterback direct matchup. I mean, what more could you ask for? And another thing, in all likelihood, the winner of this, well, I guess we have to figure out the head-to-head with Wade and some other teams. I was going to say the winner of this probably goes into first place. I don't know that that's true. It might be. Well, I guess if Tim wins and Wade wins, he wouldn't, whatever, it doesn't matter. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are playing each other. Josh Allen so far the MVP of the season, you would assume. 2 points with 30 games, had that weird Miami game where he didn't really need to do anything and had a dud. I'm going to go ahead and assume the Ravens are not going to be that. He's going to have to be Superman. He's going to have to play out of his mind if they expect to do anything. And I think he knows that. And I think we get some fun, reckless Josh Allen this week, which is just always a blast. And then Lamar on the other side, I mean, he's basically going to have to do the same thing. Obviously, they're different styles of players, different styles of runners. But they both are going to have to put their respective teams on their respective backs and just, if they have any hope of winning this game. I mean, that's just, yeah, I'm actually very excited for that. I don't think I have a player on Sunday night, and I'm really excited to just watch these two. Yeah, so getting into the running back, Saquon, monstrous. Your first quarter of the season that we're through, your fantasy MVP, two games over 30 points, and even in the other one he had 15.6. Just monster numbers, RB1, and he's now getting a Tampa Bay defense who has allowed the third most points to running backs. So that's yikes. And we're still in a situation where Devontae Smith is in concussion protocol, and he did not practice today. Spoiler alert for a little later. And AJ Brown also did not practice today. Obviously, he's not dealing with a concussion protocol situation. But not practicing on Wednesday after being out for 2 weeks is not a good sign to play on Sunday. So if those two guys aren't there and we have an exploitable run defense, obviously I just talked about the Cowboys defense and how they may be something to target. John apparently agrees because we have Devin Singletary in your RB1 slot. So I mean, I think I hit the nail on the head there. And like I said, John obviously agrees with me. The two question marks here, Devon Achane, I was still getting his usage, but yeah, without any kind of downfield threat to open it up, I mean, he's just running against stacked boxes. And even with the usage that he gets, 11 rushes, 5 targets, there's just no room in that offense. So I don't know. Tennessee is a worse defense. Who did they play last week? I don't even remember. That game sucked. Seattle. Yeah, that makes sense. 24-3. That's why I forgot about it. The Titans are worse than the Seahawks, so you at least have that. There'll probably be some running lanes there that he can exploit. But all in all, I mean, just a Monday snooze fest that we have. Luckily, Tyreek Hill on the other side. So as fun as this game is going to be Sunday night, it kind of sucks that it's going to end on this Monday downer with Tyreek and Devon Achane, I guess, catching balls from Tyler Huntley is the prevailing wisdom at the moment. Damn. Y'all are going crazy over there. If a trade happens in the middle of this, I probably won't see it, so sorry. And then Jerome Ford gets the Raiders. We thought that he was maybe losing his job to Deontay Foreman, and then he didn't. but now he's not practicing Wednesday. Pierre Strong also didn't practice Wednesday, so I guess Deontay Foreman probably is going to be the starting running back this week. Who does he even have anybody? Rico Dowdle, so you're going to start, and maybe Mostert's back, but that seems gross. Oh, Tim, you're in a pickle, buddy. And then the wide receiver room here is awesome. Justin Jefferson, Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, and even getting into Rashee Rice and Rome Odunze. I would probably swap that for Terry McLaurin after what we saw Monday night, and once again, Cardinals, Commanders over, hammer it. Yeah, I mean Tyreek Hill is obviously the question mark here. For the same reasons that Achane is a question mark. I mean, can anybody get on the ball? We thought that was going to be Malik Neighbors' problem, and then turns out he's just so good it doesn't matter. And then Nico Collins is a stud. They gets the Jaguars. Obviously, the thing I'd worry about there, I do think this is a blowout. I think this is the Doug Peterson fired game. So that game could get out of hand really fast, where if he doesn't put up his points early, you may be in danger of benching or a lot of run game. And then Justin Jefferson with the divisional game against the Packers. I'm very, very interested in that game. Sam Darnold has been probably the story of the season so far. I said I was going to bring back the Sam Darnold MVP odds. I'm not going to do that. Actually, I will. I'll do it. But anyway, Sam Darnold has been kind of the story of the season so far. Obviously taking down the 49ers. Who they beat in week 1? Actually, don't even remember. But anyway, I am interested to see divisional game against the Packers. You know, kind of a different environment going into Lambeau. It was the Giants, the 49ers, and the Texans. So you would, you know, conventional wisdom would say the 49ers and the Texans have good defenses. The 49ers have been exploited. I don't necessarily think that they're one of the elite defenses right now. Sam Darnold is plus 3,000 to win the MVP. That is 30-1 for anybody keeping up. I don't think they're one of the elite defenses right now. The Rams just beat them without Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua or half of their starting line. So, and then Sam Darnold lit him up in week 2. Green Bay has been playing some good defense. Now, obviously, this all being about Justin Jefferson, it usually doesn't matter with Justin Jefferson. He's going to get his, whether Sam Darnold is getting his or not. But I am very interested to watch Sam Darnold have to go on the road into Green Bay and do what he's been doing all year. I mean, if he can do that, you know, this is legit. This has some staying power, I think. Nico, and like I said, Nico, that's going to be a blowout. Timmy is starting Hunter Henry this week. Sam Laporta obviously was injured last week with an ankle sprain. Low ankle sprain. Looks like he's going to be fine. I swear to God, I thought he got shot in the chest when he was on the cart. I mean, that was a crazy reaction for a low ankle sprain. I'm also going to put John on wheel watch. He's, I think, the only person in the league with any kind of depth on his bench. Jaden Reed's a good candidate for highest scoring bench player. If Chris Olave does end up getting set for the game, which it would appear he's going to, obviously another good candidate there. And Joe Burrow playing the Panthers with maybe something to prove. All great candidates to put up the most points this week, unless Tim does decide to bench Terry McLaurin. Even Rome Odunze against the Rams would be a good player there. As far as a prediction, I am going. I think I'm going John. I think as far as your weak points here being Achane and Hill, obviously Achane is much less reliant on a good quarterback. It helps, but it's not detrimental that he has a bad quarterback. And I think that ends up being the difference in the game. And I think your early favorite to win the league is John. I mean, his depth is crazy. His team is crazy. Once again, he's got Chris Olave on the bench right now. And I mean, Kenneth Walker's on the bench. Zach Charbonnet's on the like just a ridiculous team. Like to the point where you can't even trade these players because nobody else has jack shit to give them. So I'm gonna go with John, and I'm gonna put him as the early season favorite to win the whole thing. So you heard it here first. Unless you also had the same thought. All right. So going on to our next, we have Wade, and Wade is taking on Charlie. Never mind, I already did that. Dumb. So now it's me and Ashley. And I was kind of excited going into the week, noticing that the Colts played the Steelers and have a very tough defense. And then she went and added Sam Darnold, who I just discussed. Sam Darnold has had a monster start to the season. He's QB4 on the year. 14 being his weakest game in week 1, and then 19 and 23. 4 touchdowns last week on 181 yards. Impressive. And you would think the Green Bay defense not up to what Houston is. But from what I saw from Houston last week, I mean, maybe. But you could just say that Sam Darnold's that good. So that does make me a little nervous. Just kind of the wild card that is Sam Darnold. The rushing upside of Anthony Richardson being one thing, but I did trust Pittsburgh to lock that shit down if he were to go. What does have me excited is Kyler Murray playing the Commanders. If you don't know this, or if you haven't heard, I think the Commanders and the Cardinals is going to be a shootout. So I like having a quarterback in that shootout. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Have never been wrong about that either. So that's the good news. Now we do still have an advantage of the Colts playing the Steelers. Obviously with Jonathan Taylor, her second round keeper. Also, obviously on the Colts playing the Steelers. Crazy, I know. Pitt has been the number 2 defense against running backs so far this year. And Jonathan Taylor got in the end zone twice last week. I mean, had a huge week against Chicago. Had over 100 yards the week before against the Packers. Really hasn't laid a dud since week 1 against the Texans. But I would say that's, well, the Bears is a pretty good defense. Yeah, I mean, he's the scariest player. Well, he's not the scariest player on her team. That was a lie that I was about to tell you. That was a fib. One of the scariest players on her team. And playing a great defense, obviously, is something I enjoy there. Now, Josh Jacobs taking on the Vikings, who are the number 6 team against opposing running backs. And he had 151 yards in week 2, but didn't find the end zone and fumbled, and that kind of kept him to an average day, even though he kind of popped off. Last week, the Titans kind of shut him down a little bit. I do think Malik Willis is stealing a lot of the rushing attempts, just because you have a quarterback with legs there. So if Jordan Love comes back, and obviously coming off of injury, they may lean on Josh Jacobs a little more, but playing against the Vikings in a really good defense there. I finally get Brees and Bijan in the same window. They're playing at 1 p.m. I think I'm really excited about that, to have them both going at the same time. Maybe alternating drives would be really sick, so I could just watch them both and just have a full 4 hours of just them on the screen. That would be so sick. Playing Denver, who I think he just destroyed last year. In fact, I think I very vividly remember. Let me go to my phone, because apparently you can't change the year on the website. But I have a very vivid memory of having him last year, seeing Denver on the schedule, and thinking this is when Brees Hall becomes Brees Hall. And then he did. Had 26.9 points, 177 yards rushing. And a touchdown. I think he had like a 70-yard touchdown in that game. Sorry, I didn't mean to cream about Brees Hall playing the Broncos last year, but a matchup that I'm very much looking forward to for him. And Bijan getting the Saints, who do have a good defense. Let me say that. I respect the Saints defense. They are good. But are they that good? Saquon obviously went just ballistic on him last week. Had the long 65-yard touchdown. Was putting up a lot of yards. We're still waiting on kind of the RB1 performance from Bijan. He hasn't dropped a complete dud yet. Last week only had 31 rushing yards, 21 receiving. against Kansas City, I mean, that's kind of what we've come to expect. But we just haven't really had that like wow performance. He was really really good against the Eagles. He just didn't find the end zone. I think that maybe changes this week, and if not, if it doesn't, he's got Tampa Bay next week. So one of these next 2 weeks is going to be pretty pivotal for Bijan Robinson. Now the lie that I almost told was that Jonathan Taylor was the scariest part of Ashley's team. You all remember? You were there. It's about 4 minutes ago. It wasn't even that long. It's probably 45 seconds. That's a lie. It's Jamar Chase, and it's Jamar Chase by a wide margin. He was a limited participant in Wednesday's practice. I'm assuming that just means he is getting some rest. They said it's a shoulder issue. We'll know by tomorrow. He's fine. Yeah, I mean the Commanders obviously just poopy secondary. 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. It looks like Joe Burrow has remembered who Jamar Chase was and remembered how to when you throw him the football, he makes plays and scores you points. And against a team like Carolina, in what sneaky could be a little bit of a shootout, the Bengals defense obviously just got shredded by Jaden Daniels. And Andy Dalton is obviously making that team just brand new. Jesus Christ, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Yeah, I'm scared shitless of Jamar Chase. Anyway, that was the point of that. That's the player to watch. Khalil Shakir also had a monster week. 72 yards and a touchdown. But that was just kind of the Bills just doing silly shit to the Jaguars. I'm not completely sold on Baltimore. They're the Ravens. I mean, what I was about to describe is just the Ravens every year, which is go toe to toe. You are literally a toe away from beating the Chiefs. You lose to the Raiders. You are just dog walking the Cowboys, and I look up and that game is a 3-point game, and you have a 3rd and 7 to win that game. Like, you needed a miracle 3rd and 7 to win that game. So all that to say, the Ravens can be thrown on, and that also makes me nervous about Khalil Shakir. Was what that long-winded rant was about. I think the Bills are just clicking on all cylinders right now, and Shakir is a part of that. Hasn't had the flashiest numbers all year. Last game being his best game with 72 yards and a tutter. But I think it's kind of all hands on deck for the Ravens. And like I said, I think Josh goes superhero mode, which means he's going to throw the deep ball a couple times. And, well, there you go. So I'm very nervous about the receivers here, especially considering AJ Brown still hasn't fucking practiced. So I don't know what I'm doing at receiver. I don't trust Brandon Ayuk because Juwan Jennings is just shoving his cock in Brock Purdy's mouth nonstop, and Brock is just loving it, just slobbering on it. So I don't know. Maybe we call this a get right spot for Ayuk. Maybe Shanahan gets in Brock Purdy's face and says, "Hey, you lost the fucking game because you couldn't stop staring at Juwan Jennings' bulge." And he's got the Patriots, so that's a matchup that, well, no, because Christian Gonzalez is really fucking good, and he's going to be lined up against him. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what to make of Brandon Ayuk, and AJ Brown's not practicing, and that's really sad. If Keenan Allen can go, I like that matchup against the Chargers. I think he was a limited participant today in practice. He was. So maybe I look to exploit that. I mean, if not, we're looking at Christian Kirk against Houston, Darnell Mooney against the Saints, Quentin Johnston against the Chiefs is probably a hard no. And that's even if Justin Herbert plays, which I think he probably won't. So wide receiver is a mess right now, unless AJ Brown can get his head out of his ass and play football on Sunday. So that scares me. That's where the game is going to be the grossest. I made a change at tight end with Cole Kmet. I think I've made a change at tight end every week that I was allowed to by the rules. So Cole Kmet now in for me at tight end. Mark Andrews still just hanging out. literally just hanging out. I think he ran 4 routes on Sunday. So we'll see if there's a change made at tight end there. Sure. Zach Moss and Brian Robinson. Zach Moss against the Panthers. So excited. You know, the silver. I guess the dream scenario here is obviously that the Bengals kick the shit so hard out of the Panthers that Jamar Chase is irrelevant. I just don't think that's true. That's not what's gonna happen. Actually, the dream scenario would be Chase gets like a touchdown like late in the second quarter to put him up like 35-3, and then that's all he really does. Maybe a Big T Higgins game is what I can really hope for. Brian Robinson against the Cardinals. Stop me if you've heard this before. There's going to be a lot of points in that game, so I think Brian Robinson probably finds the end zone. Yeah, the website here has me winning 105-97. I think that's a lot of assuming that AJ Brown is going to play, which once again, there's zero indication that that's true. I never pick against myself, but I was a lot more confident when Anthony Richardson was the starting quarterback for Ashley. I'll say that. Okay, and then moving on to, is it Raleigh? Is Raleigh next, or is it Andrew? It is Raleigh. So Raleigh coming in at 2-1. I think I went in the right order. Did I skip Raleigh? Nah, we're good. Raleigh taking on Trevor. 2-1 versus 0-3. Trevor sneaky needing a pretty big win here. He's got Tim next week, and then he's got Ashley Stevenson Bowl the week after that. I desperately needs a win. I mean, an 0-4 start would be brutal, and then you're going up against one of the highest scoring teams in the league next week. Scary stuff. Luckily for him, his opponent has put up 100 points on the dot, which is, I mean, at this point in this year, respectable. But coming off of a whopping 75-point performance, and then the week 1, where's he at? Not stupid. Oh, he had 120. So only really one bad week. I don't know. The way Raleigh talks, I thought he was putting up like 86 points every week. Anyway, just coming off of a fat dud. Obviously, a lot of that having to do with Travis Kelce, and hence another change at tight end. God, y'all are still fucking talking. Damn. You're just arguing that Travis Kelce sucks dick. Ironically enough. Big NFC East battle here with Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. Dak Prescott getting the Giants. Put up just monster garbage time numbers last week. 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. Most of those came after they were down 3 scores. Once again, they could have won that game. I mean, they had a 3rd and 7 on the correct side of the 2-minute warning to get the ball back, down a field goal. Could have won that game. I mean, if they got the ball back there, like, the Ravens hadn't been stopping the Cowboys in a while. Anyway, coming off a 29-point performance, which is the first game he's really had put together all year. Getting a Giants team who not great and on a short week. Now that game is in New York, which pumps the brakes on the excitement a little bit. Obviously, Dak is much better in the dome. And playing outside at MetLife going to be very interesting. But the Giants, not a team to fear by any means. And then Jalen Hurts getting the Buccaneers. Going to be very interesting to see if. I didn't realize the Eagles have a bye in week 5. Yeah, there's no fucking chance AJ Brown plays. They're just going to keep him out through the bye. Fuck. Which also means Devontae Smith's probably not going to play. I think this is a survive and advance game for the Eagles. Early bye week probably coming in at a good time for him. So I don't know how much we see out of Jalen Hurts. He had 311 yards against the Saints and it equated to 10 points. So I yeah, I think it's a Saquon Barkley game. I do. And that also leaves Trevor in a huge pickle here with what he's going to do at wide receiver. Actually, no, it doesn't. He has a pretty easy answer. I'll get to it when we get there. J.K. Dobbins, I think we are not going to see Justin Herbert this week. I think I said that already. The problem there is Kansas City is just not allowing running back yards and points at all. Minimize it. Y'all distracting me. Yeah, third against opposing running backs in fantasy, and coming off of a 6.9 point performance last week against the Steelers, who are probably a better overall defense, but run defense, I mean, I don't know, they're both really fucking good. And obviously, if there's no Justin Herbert, no threat of the downfield game, and I think Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt are both out. I mean, this is just a tough ask for J.K. Dobbins. Travis Etienne is the Jags are just poopy butt, big bad. He hasn't really had a big breakout performance yet this season. 10, 13, and 10. So here's what I'll tell you, Trevor, about Travis Etienne and what I think you're about to be in for. I think you have one more bad week. I mean, I've said it. Doug Peterson probably gets fired on Monday. I think this game is like 35-3 Texans. A very similar score to what we just saw from the Bills. And then Doug Peterson gets fired. You get an interim coach. Everybody gets pumped. And then you go on a little run. And then you get like 5 or 6 weeks of ETN putting up like 18 to 21 points. Like he'll be awesome. And it'll probably flame out towards the end of the year, but that'll be a fun run. So there you go. There's a preview for the Jag season. Unfortunately, I don't think this is the week that you get it from him. On the other side, we got David Montgomery against the Seahawks. That game, in years past, and I think I even mentioned this with Geno Smith, in years past, that game has been fucked up, a blast, shootouts, chaos, just incredible football, just back and forth, up and down. Jared Goff, Geno Smith, slinging it out, awesome football. They both have good defenses now, so I don't think it's going to be quite that. I think you're going to see a lot of ground and pound, and maybe, I don't know. That one slipped out. That was crazy. It's getting late. But I don't think we're going to see this incredible back and forth, 44-39 game that the Seahawks and the Lions have played in years past. I think it'll be a good game. But the Seahawks currently number 9 against opposing running backs. But the Lions have kind of proved that they don't really give a fuck. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to run it well. And David Montgomery is going to score a touchdown. David Montgomery's had a good ass season so far. Damn. And then you got Kyron Williams, who is the only healthy Rams player at this point. Coming off a 30-point performance, 3 touchdowns. I actually didn't realize he had 3 touchdowns in that game, but I guess who the fuck else was scoring them? So that makes sense. 89 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's everything. Chicago has been a little bit susceptible against the run this year, even though their defense is pretty good, but the run defense is a little bit left desired. And once again, who the fuck else is doing anything for the Rams? They're all buried and gone. So I don't know that we're getting 30 again, but I think Kyron can carry the load there. Once again, wide receivers where things are going to get interesting. It's almost like they're the most interesting position in fantasy football. Amon-Ra against Seattle. I touched on it with David Montgomery. But Amon-Ra, after just posting an absolute dud in the first week, has gone 17 points in back-to-back weeks. Found the end zone against Arizona last week, and Seattle apparently number 2 against opposing wide receivers. Told you, defenses are good, man. Didn't even know that stat when I said that. That's crazy. I just watched ball, just no ball. So now seeing that though, I will say that probably favors very, very heavily for Raleigh, because I think they're probably gonna run the damn ball. Mike Evans against Philly. I talked about it with Chris Godwin. I think we kind of see Baker Mayfield and the Bucs get back on track from what happened at Denver last week. Philly a much more exploitable secondary than the Broncos, obviously, very obviously, like opposite ends of the spectrum. I didn't realize he sucked against Detroit too. That stinks. Yeah, has yet to really have a monster yardage game. But 2 touchdowns in week 1, and yeah, I expect I expect him to get his targets and get his catches this week and kind of come back into form. And then Zay Flowers against Buffalo. Now Buffalo is where your matchup gets a little bit hazy. Number 7 against opposing wide receivers. And Zay Flowers, not a dominating force by any stretch. Had a good week against the Raiders in week 2. Other than that, has been pretty quiet. And Lamar just loves tight ends and loves running the ball. So I don't think the week for Zay Flowers. And now we get to Trevor's question marks. Devontae Smith didn't practice, has a concussion. I haven't seen or confirmed that he's not playing, but I would lean to not playing if he's still in the protocol. David Njoku, is he coming back? Is he playing? Isn't in line to practice Wednesday. He's missed 2 straight games, so a high ankle sprain. I alluded to it earlier. I think there's an obvious answer here for your plug and play at wide receiver, and I think it's Calvin Ridley against the Dolphins. The Tennessee offense has been atrocious, but the Dolphins defense has been worse. So that's my answer. Maybe you see if Juwan Jennings can repeat his performance. Maybe you see if you can luck out into a shootout with Jameson Williams and just go double stack with the Lions there. But I think the quick answer is Calvin Ridley against the Dolphins. So that's who I would plug in. And if you factor that in, the website has this as a closer matchup. Actually, would put Raleigh ahead with the projections there. I don't know that I necessarily agree. It is wild that they still have Devontae Smith projected at 12, even though he's in concussion protocol. Didn't practice. Make sure I'm not crazy. Is not participating in the walkthrough. Yeah. So I don't think he's gonna play. Picking a winner here is tough. There's some matchups that I like. I do think ultimately ETN having a dud, which I think he will. J.K. Dobbins having a dud, which I think he will. Maybe you can get a big game out of Calvin Ridley against a very, very soft Dolphins defense. But I think I'm gonna go with Raleigh here, and I think I'm gonna just go ahead and predict for the chaos of it, Trevor to start 0-4 going into week 5 of the big matchup against Timmy. And that now brings us to our final game of the week, which is the only one with 2 teams with a losing record, interestingly enough. Cameron and Andrew. Andrew, we talked about it at the top. Bad luck. T. Higgins had 2 balls that he could have caught for a touchdown that would have won him the game. Cameron, bad luck. His entire team is dying all around him. Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan lied about the injury. Apparently he just knew, didn't say anything. That's fucked up. He's going to Germany to see a specialist. He ain't playing. He ain't playing this year. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That was mean. Jaden Daniels, I think I said it in the chat. I've definitely been saying it at work. Jaden Daniels Monday night played the best game that a quarterback has played this year, in my eyes, in the NFL period. There were a lot of people saying like, oh, he's the first rookie to break. And that was the best game by a quarterback this year that I have seen. He looked incredible. He was doing it all. Deep balls to Terry McLaurin. He ran in for a touchdown. 28 points, almost single-handedly put Andrew back in that game. Second game with 28 points this year. And even the week in week 2 when he only put up 13. I mean, he had the yardage. He was moving the ball. They just could not find the end zone for whatever reason. CJ Stroud, I like in a big bounce back game against the Jags. I've talked about it. I think it's a blowout. I don't know that I need to touch on it more. Joe Mixon, love it. Play him. Stephon Diggs, absolutely. Yes. Everybody's getting the ball. I don't even think this is a week where you have to worry about which Texan to start. I think every one of them, even Tank Dell, fuck it, put him in there. Yeah, he's not available. On the other side, you've got Alvin Kamara against the Falcons. Kamara came back down to earth. 87 yards, 40 through the air. I mean, he still just gobbles up touches. and cock, but he just gobbles up the ball. But he is also now dealing with an injury. Did not practice Wednesday, has a hip. I think the Saints are just like right now maybe the most injured team out there. They got a ton of defenders injured. Bijan, we got a ton of defenders that are injured. And if Kamara can't play, I mean that's just, yeah, you really just hate to see it. Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, I've harped about what this Seattle matchup is going to be. And if it's a lot of running the damn ball, you know, you're getting 50% of that to Jahmyr Gibbs, who was just a yardage. I mean, he just chunks yardage. You know, obviously his weak point in fantasy anyway is he just doesn't get the end zone. Obviously David Montgomery gets a lot of the 10-yard in work. In fact, yeah, he's got one rushing touchdown, one receiving touchdown on the year. So maybe you luck up and he breaks off a big one, but you know, he's so consistent. 15, 14, 16. I mean, it's beautiful. Najee Harris on the other side playing a pretty porous Colts defense. The entire running back room for the Steelers is injured. In fact, there's not a questionable by his name, but he did not practice today. Or yesterday, I guess. Wednesday. And he's wearing a sling. So we'll see if he plays too. Fuck, everybody's injured. Actually. So if he can't go, I would assume we see Chuba Hubbard slot in there, which I also don't hate against a Cincinnati defense that just got absolutely ran through. I talked about Stephon Diggs, Texans, Jags, just put him in and don't think about it. DK Metcalf against the Lions. Once again, I've touched on that game. I think I've talked about every game ad nauseum. But the Lions not necessarily someone you'd exploit. I mean, I don't know what is DK Metcalf. Yeah, 23 and 18. Wide receiver 7 on the year. So so far Andrew winning his bet. We'll see if he can continue that. Sorry, just went on a little run there. CeeDee Lamb, we have yet to see really be CeeDee Lamb. He had a sweet catch against New Orleans last week and then didn't really do anything else. Yeah, the problem there, I can go ahead and tell you, is the Cowboys have no one else. I mean, Brandon Cooks is fine, but you just triple CD and you're good. You're chilling. Obviously gets a little bit more of a favorable matchup against the Giants this week. So you would like to see him get back to form on a short week Thursday night against the Giants, you know, kind of in line with what I was talking about with Dak. But that game being outside in MetLife, I mean, I don't love it. But CeeDee Lamb is going to get back to form at some point this year, and so I think there's probably not many better spots than against the Giants on a short week. Drake London, we've kind of seen finally have his breakout. The yardage totals haven't been crazy, but he scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks. He's had some good games. He's had some big time catches. And now he gets a New Orleans defense, which is, like I said, good, very injured. So, you know, I like Drake London in this spot too. And then for my own personal sake, I hope that T. Higgins puts up 70 points. I hope he catches every ball that Joe Burrow throws. That would be sweet. Realistically, he's got to get more involved in the offense if the Bengals are going to turn this thing around. Only had 5.4 points, but like I said, he was targeted twice in the end zone. I think they're still trying to get on the same page. And what better place to get on the same page than against the Carolina Panthers? With Andy Dalton coming to town. Tony Pollard against the Dolphins is a good start. Has he been starting them all year? I would assume so. Yeah, the Dolphins fucking suck. As far as picking a winner here, I think I'm gonna go with. Ooh, I do like the stack against. Yeah, but then Najee's not gonna play. You're starting Chuba. I am gonna go with Andrew. Yeah, I mean, I Cameron, unfortunately, your team just got abused, and it sucks. With Christian McCaffrey in this lineup, I think I mean, obviously you have a chance to win every game, but I think I'm gonna go with Andrew. And that wraps up your week 4 preview. Under an hour this week, so you know we're improving little by little. Good luck. Love y'all.